Good morning and welcome to Connect Daily Bread, where we recognize that man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. Today we'll be reading out of Luke chapter 12, and here we go. Meanwhile, when a crowd of many thousands had gathered so that they were trampling on one another, Jesus began to speak first to his disciples, saying, "Be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What you have said in the dark will be heard in the daylight, and what you have whispered in the ear in the inner room will be proclaimed from the roofs. I tell you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who can kill the body, and after that can do no more. But I will show you whom you should fear. Fear him who, after your body has been killed, has authority to throw you into hell. Yes, I tell you, fear him. Are not 5 sparrows sold for two pennies? Yet not one of them is forgotten by God. Indeed, the very hair of your head are all numbered. Do not be afraid, you are worth more than many sparrows. I tell you, whoever publicly acknowledges me before others, the Son of Man will also acknowledge before the angels of God. But whoever disowns me before others will be disowned before the angels of God. And everyone who speaks a word against the Son of Man will be forgiven. But anyone who who blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven. When you are brought before synagogue rulers and authorities, do not worry about how you will defend yourselves or what you will say, for the Holy Spirit will teach you at that time what you should say." Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" Then he said to them, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in the abundance of possessions." And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool! This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself?" This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothes. Consider the ravens, they do not sow or reap. They have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. And how much more valuable you are than birds? Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? Since you cannot do this very little thing, why do you worry about the rest? Consider how the wild flowers grow. They do not labor or spin, yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into fire, how much more will he clothe you, you of little faith? And do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it. For the pagan world runs after all these things, and your Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give to the poor. Provide purses for yourself that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven that will never fail, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Be dressed ready for service and keep your lamps burning, like servants waiting for their master to return from a wedding banquet, so that when he comes and knocks, they can immediately open the door for him. It will be good for those servants whose masters find them watching when he comes. Truly I tell you, he will dress himself to serve, will have them recline at the table, and will come and wait on them. It will be good for those servants whose masters find them ready, even if he comes in the middle of the night or toward daybreak. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come in an hour when you do not expect him." Peter asked, "Lord, are you telling this parable to us or to everyone?" The Lord answered, "Who then is the faithful and wise servant whom the master puts in charge, faithful and wise manager whom the master puts in charge of his servants to give them their food allowance at their proper time? It will be good for that servant whom the master finds doing so when he returns. Truly I tell you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But suppose the servant says to himself, 'My master is taking a long time in coming,' and he then begins to beat the other servants, both men and women, and to eat and drink and get drunk. The master of the servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, at an hour when he is unaware of. He will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the unbelievers. The servant who knows the master's will and does not get ready, or does not do what the master wants, will be beaten with many blows. But the one who does not know and does things deserving punishment will be beaten with few blows. From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded, and the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. I have come to bring fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. But I have a baptism to undergo, and what constraint I am under until it's completed. Do you think I came to bring peace on earth? No, I tell you, but division. From now on there will be 5 in one family divided against each other, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. He said to the crowds, when you see a cloud rising in the west, immediately you say it's going to rain, and it does. When you see the south wind blows, you say it's going to be hot, and it is. Hypocrites, you know how to interpret the appearance of the earth and the sky. How is it that you don't know how to interpret the present time? Why don't you judge for yourselves what is right? As you are going with your adversary to the magistrate, try hard to be reconciled on the way, or your adversary may drag you off to the judge, and the judge turn you over to the officer, and the officer throw you into prison. I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. Okay, so here, a lot to unpack in Luke chapter 12. But what I think I'm going to dial in on is the parable of the rich fool, right? And so this has prompted somebody asked Jesus, hey, teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. We see that in verse 13. And then Jesus replied, man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you? And then he goes on, he says, watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. And so here Jesus goes and he tells about this guy that, man, he's doing well for himself, so well he runs out of place for his crops. And his solution to this is to build another barn, to just stockpile and hoard more and more for himself. And his strategy for life was something like, do well, have an abundant harvest, store it away, keep it for myself, eat, drink, be merry, and don't die. And that last part turned out to be really hard for him. And so after his grand plan, he ends up passing away. And there highlights, okay, man, what was he really living for? What he was living for and investing in was for the wrong thing. He was investing, number one, for self. It was all about him. And number two, he was investing in the temporal, the things that would pass away. And Jesus is calling people here and to us. He's calling us higher to invest in, to be rich towards God, and to invest in treasures in heaven that will not fade away. And so, what is it that means? What does that look like? Well, it can and does look very much like starting with a tithe and trusting God with the first fruits of our income. But it goes deeper than just that. God recognizes that money has the potential possessions have the potential to possess us, to capture our heart. And so really, the heart of the matter is the matter of the heart. And so Jesus wants our heart. And so in giving of the tithe and giving of finances, we free ourselves up to take hold of the life that's true life. And then we're able to invest in the things which are going to matter forever. And a clue as to what's going to matter forever is God and people. Everything else, the earth as it is gonna pass away. But people and God are gonna last forever. So the challenge for us is to make wise investments, to invest in our relationship with God and invest in our relationship with others, with the intention and purpose of investing in them in a way that they get to know the Father and to enjoy Him forever. So those are my thoughts on today's reading. Go ahead and comment what stood out to you. Love you guys. Have a great day.